Jay here from Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paddock podcast. With me is Mr. Joe Smith, but no offence, we don't care about him. We've also got Mr. Carl Anka from The Athletic. Carl, good to see you again.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
How you doing? Happy New Year and all that. I'm still saying Happy New Year, even though it's 20.
What are the rules on that?
I don't know. When's your cut-off point?
Usually mid-Jan.
Really?
Yeah, typically 15th, I'd say.
After my birthday.
So I had planned to say Happy New Year to Erik ten Hag in Dutch for first week back. So, been practicing Dutch, Hallo meneer ten Hag, gelukkig nieuwjaar. Practice it. Get into the first press conference on January 7th. And press conferences recently have been really, really packed. Just United doing well, more people turn up, loads of questions being asked, loads of different scenarios, whatever. So I'm, the entire time, I normally am the last person in this press conference, so I'm just going, please, sir, let me ask a question. And I've got it all prepped up, and I keep like, I'm going to do it. January 7th, don't get to ask a question. After the game, didn't get to ask the question. And I'm like, okay, I've got to January 15th, and I haven't quite had the opportunity to say Happy New Year to him. And you go, past January 15th.
It's on the cusp.
You're on the cusp. So what I did I didn't say it in the event. What I did in the end was just after Palace, as I was putting my recording devices in there, I was just putting all there. So rather than doing a formal saying, I just went gelukkig nieuwjaar to ten Hag, and he just sort of goes, I'm really sorry. I'm practicing my Dutch. Is this any good? He goes, yeah, not bad. Keep practicing.
Nice. Hey, a little bit of a shout with ten Hag. Very impressive.
You didn't do any Scottish when you interviewed Fergie, so what was that about?
Eric ten Hag struggled to understand my English when I
Oh,
got my one question to him. I had to ask it twice.
Yeah.
So
he said, your English isn't bad, keep practicing.
It was almost that, to be fair.
Yeah, right. Just looking from the back, pure Manc accent on it.
So you're definitely one step ahead of me. Do get involved in the chat in the comments for your questions for Carl or anything else you want to talk about. Loads to get through.
What are we going to talk about today, Jay?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Fred. I know you wrote about Fred recently. A cameo, shall we say, at the Emirates. Yeah. Not really something you can look into too much, I feel, throwing him into that game. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Marcus Rashford, because he's doing all right, isn't he? Mate.
We got to have come up with a really nice name for that.
Yeah. Did Saka do that?
Saka and Eddie Nketiah did it afterwards, which I think was a bit...
Is that
part of me wanted to get mad, but also part of me, as a child of the 90s, who really, really misses the old Arsenal United blood and thunder days, I went, ooh, spiciness.
We were saying that when we wanted a proper brawl. When it looked like there was a little bit of kicking off with, was it Gabriel and Bruno or someone? And then Weghorst was straight in there. I thought, is there going to be a bit? And it sort of petered out. We was hoping for a bit of that. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
I want that. I want England to be awful at tournaments again because everyone hates each other.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Not
because there's this friendship
unlucky mate on Twitter when one team loses. I want rub it in, steal people's celebrations and take the piss out of each other.
Yeah.
And finish bottom of your group, but also the Euros.
But also United winning games.
That's
well.
it.
Yeah,
United successful. England not even qualifying for tournaments. That's football heritage.
I want world-class players to be so hateful towards each other they can't even beat Croatia.
Yeah.
Well, 2008 Croatia.
Even when they're on the same team, they won't talk to each other.
Because Croatia are really good now, but they weren't then. So who would the equivalent be? I don't even know. Andorra.
Yeah.
Lose to them, and hit each other in the dressing room.
Not even talk to each other, not eat together, nothing. No acknowledgement that you exist.
Just want a bit of needle.
I
just quite enjoyed Arsenal and United playing good football, and
it was a good game, wasn't it? Despite the result, it was it was a spectacle. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk a little bit about United in 4 competitions. I know you've written about this. Games coming absolutely thick and fast. I think is it every 3.2 days or something.
So
you'll know.
9 more games between now and the end of February.
That doesn't include if we get to the League Cup final either, does it? Which is on the 26th of February.
It also doesn't include if for some reason Manchester United versus Reading goes to replay as well. So
never count out. Never.
Ridiculous.
Fingers crossed.
But we're saying this yesterday, but we're playing more games than everyone else around us, aren't we? Because we've got obviously way more than Newcastle, who aren't in Europe anymore. Yep. Everyone else is out of the League Cup except Newcastle.
Yep.
So that's 2 more games.
And because of the Europa League,
the extra
playoff round.
And another 2 games more than everyone. It's our fixture list is always mad. But part of your article, the point was do we prioritise something here? Because Jose did it in, was it 2017?
Jose did it in 2017 from about January.
Yeah.
When he
It was
just went,
basically
forget the league.
Yeah.
That's not happening for us. But we're going to go Europa, and to be fair, he won it.
But also, that's the last trophy we won.
Yeah.
And you know, Solskjaer got to a Europa League final.
Yeah.
Finished second in the league.
Yeah.
But didn't win the league and didn't win the Europa League. So do you think, you know, obviously not trying to make you reword your article, but do you think that we need to maybe think, right, what is the priority here? Surely the League Cup is the sort of short-term priority.
So this was an argument I always end up having, especially during the COVID seasons behind closed doors, was if you're playing so many games of football and your squad isn't necessarily, you haven't got strength in depth. I think Manchester United have depth in depth, if that makes sense, but the drop off between some of their best players and their second best players can be quite stark. And the argument I came up with during the locked door stuff was, at some point, it might be better off tanking some of the cup competitions and focusing on your league and whatnot. And this was very, very apparent under Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was very much like, FA Cup, League Cup, may as well get knocked out and focus on the two biggies.
Was it Everton they played that time? And they basically, or who was it they played? And they played the under-16s and won. Do you remember he was trying to lose?
Aston Villa.
Klopp didn't even turn up.
Was that when they was on the
Club World Cup?
Club World Cup?
So annoying.
And he had to play, so he just sent the
he
children.
literally sent under-18s to play. And they
we
still
know
couldn't
Klopp's
beat
done it. We know Pochettino did it at Spurs, where they went, the English club's not too much of a bother. And I remember asking Solskjaer this, you know, is there ever a temptation where the fixture list gets a bit congested that you might prioritise one over another? And Solskjaer was very much like, no, we're Manchester United. A good Manchester United squad wins everything and tries to win everything. Okay. And, you know, Solskjaer, 1920, 3 semi-finals, Europa League semi-final, League Cup semi-final, FA Cup semi-final. And unfortunately, they weren't good in those semi-finals. But that was his approach all the time, Solskjaer. Whereas, as you said, Mourinho's approach was in 16, 17, he just went, I'm going to finish 5th or 6th in the league, may as well prioritise the Europa League because we're the strongest team in Europa League, and they won it.
Yeah.
They nearly didn't because of Mr. Guidetti in Celta Vigo. And this is the thing of, I mean, they call it, you know, American sport, you call it tanking, where you start deliberately losing because you want to do something else. And when you're Manchester United under Ten Hag, and you're the only English team still left in 4 competitions, and your fixture list is going this way, and you are heavily reliant on someone like Antony Martial, whose injury status is unreliable, shall we say.
Yeah.
And the drop off between, say, your best defensive midfielder and your second best defensive midfielder is quite large. Yeah. Does the idea of tanking come into play? Ten Hag has not given an answer, right? You ask Ten Hag, Europa League group stage games. Oh, Mr. Ten Hag, what do you think about Europa League? And he's like, we want to win every game. League Cup, early rounds. Oh, Mr. Ten Hag, what do you think about League Cup? We want to win every game. FA Cup. Oh, Mr. Antony, what do you think about FA Cup? I think it's really nice that I'm playing in the historic FA Cup. I would like to win every game. And that's not quite what Solskjaer's approach was. Solskjaer's approach was, no, you win trophies. It doesn't matter. Whereas Ten Hag is very much cards up against his chest, hasn't really revealed what he wants to do yet in terms of anything other than this talk about process and rules and whatever. So, yeah, that article was just me arguing amongst myself of, do you get to a point where you're like, well, it's an FA Cup 5th round game against, say, let's say Manchester United get past Reading, and next round you've got to play Wolves. Do you go, well, we'll just not play the strongest side here and focus more on League Cup and whatever cup? To me, the answer was maybe. What about you? Would you be happy if, one day in February or in March, you saw a lineup in one of the cups and it was very obvious Ten Hag's like, not really bothered about this anymore?
It's a very, very good question. And I'll be honest with you. I quite like the idea of going for it. And I don't know if that's a mistake, because I don't know, like you say, I like the fact you use depth in depth rather than strength in depth.
Weakness in depth.
Yeah, we've got lots of players, but some of them, like you mentioned there, a drop off. We saw it against Arsenal, which we'll get into in a bit, with Casemiro being out. That is probably the wrong approach, but there's a part of me that's just, I'm not going to lie, when we're talking about Jose in 2017, I just think, it's been 6 years. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I just can't. Don't get me wrong, I know that the Champions League is a priority. I know that top 4 is like, what everyone wants and be in that competition next season and everything that comes with it. But I just need to see something. I need to see.
You just need a bus parade.
Honestly, it's just getting harder each year, and you think, oh well, this will happen. We don't go that long without a trophy at United, and then it's like, we're approaching record-breaking levels of how long it's taken between the trophies. So yeah, I probably wouldn't moan if he went for it and everything, and that is probably the wrong answer.
I genuinely think we're not going to know the right answer until the season is finished and there's either a shiny pot or there isn't a shiny pot, and then you can go, oh, actually, 3 weeks ago, that was the game you should have done that.
Because it's like you said with Jose, I think, was it Swansea or something? I remember there was one game in particular, I think it's Swansea at Old Trafford, I might be wrong, I think we drew, where it was almost like he just said, I don't care about this game. It was like, it's so obvious. I think he actually did say it.
I think he said
like, and then he played
it was maybe
debuts
3 or 4
to people.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 games before the end of the season. He goes, we have 3 or 4 games that we don't really want to play because we want to play Europa League. I think I'm doing that fake Mourinho accent I do.
I think it'd have to be
I just have a generic accent for everyone.
I think it'd have to be the opposite now, where the Europa League is probably the one you prioritise the least. Because a 2-legged tie against Barcelona, a Barcelona team that is obviously not back to their best, because their best is the greatest team of all time, but back to might well win La Liga type form. They're top of the league. They're barely conceding any goals all season. They're scoring loads of goals. Like, that's a Champions League quarter-final, semi-final type fixture again, because they are, I would say one of the top 5 most informed teams in Europe at the moment. Certainly when you put their competition in there as well, because you never really know how good Bayern Munich are, because they're always playing against, Hoffenheim. But
yeah,
I think beating them over a 2-legged tie is going to be really hard, and we might not even be able to do it. So I would rest people in that if we had to.
Do you have a concern? And I understand where you're coming from, because you have to, somewhere you have to do it. And there's a semi-final of the Carabao Cup, or it's a 5th round of the FA Cup. Do you have a concern that if you were to do that and you get a bit of a spanking, it can sort of not derail your season?
Yeah, but I'm not saying play, Pillistri and
But even like at the point
of
even if you drop, like, say, rest Casemiro and rest Martial,
I think we should be able to
rest, Varane.
You'd hope we could rest a couple of people for the Reading game.
Yeah.
You'd hope Rashford could get a rest, certainly off the bench. Maybe Casemiro on the bench as well. Maybe Varane off the bench. These people that are, if we lose one of them, we lose the chance, or we lose a sort of 30% chance of us winning the next Premier League game. Maybe rest them on the bench.
Because even Charlton, we ended up with quite a strong team.
We did, but they only played 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. But it wasn't like it was a comfortable
it wasn't.
win, was it? It was like, this could be getting a bit worrying. And that was no disrespect to Charlton, but that is a team that, on paper you'd think we can just play anyone and beat these.
But we can't not play our full strength team against Newcastle now. We're too far in that competition. You can't start resting people at semi-final.
Against Forest, sorry.
Forest, sorry.
Well, then I suppose it's the interesting thing of this debate's become more interesting because United are having quite favourable draws in the cups.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's the League Cup and it's the semi-final, and I keep going, where's Man City? Aren't we supposed to be playing Man City right now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably helped Ten Hag.
Because that takes the if it was City in the semi-final, there's no argument there.
I can't remember the
last
time
you're not playing any weakened team against
United got to a domestic semi-final without playing Chelsea. We seem to play Chelsea all the time. Before we don't win a trophy without playing Chelsea at some point domestically.
That's like
it just doesn't happen. Yeah,
it's in the football rules. I will get some.
We either beat them or lose to them at some point every season.
We'll get to some. Going to appear at Old Trafford. Hello, lads.
What's this?
Forest couldn't make it.
Forest weren't allowed to play Dean Henderson, so they're playing Chelsea instead.
We've got loads of comments. Darth Scottish Devil 986 says, "Whoever don't back Erik ten Hag are delusional. He needs time and patience. This is his first season, and it took Sir Alex 4 seasons to win his first trophy." Michael Dyson, who's been a member of the academy for 11 months. "Salutations, travellers. Had to stay away from social media as Arsenal fans are insufferable. Also, like Carl's shirt and Jay's head shine." So,
and
thanks.
Joe's.
What a lovely... Sorry. And everything about Joe, because he's ace.
Thank you.
What material is that jumper made from? It seems really soft.
It's sort of I think it's a polyester wool blend.
Okay. All right, then.
In fact, I'm certain it is.
Iron resistant then.
Daniel Kirk says,
very low temps.
"Carl, do you think we need to be patient with Antony? See some United fans going for him. Will he start to bring more?"
This is a really good question. Yes. Question mark. Upward inflection. The argument for Antony is first season in the Premier League, making the jump from the Eredivisie to the Premier League is big. Mm-hmm. He's 22 years of age. He's living in Paul Pogba's old gaff.
Is he?
Yeah, he did a video and there's like Paul Pogba's PP branded pool table as he's doing.
You joking? He didn't take it with him.
So he's doing, he's
unbelievable.
New country, new league, new adjustments, and And I mean, Andy Mitten, when we're on Talk of the Devils, speaks a lot about how Andy Mitten knows Stephen Pienaar quite well. And Stephen Pienaar also talks about just how hard it is to go from the Eredivisie to the Premier League. It's just huge physical jump, huge technical jump. There's a certain point you see, if you watch a lot of Dutch football, there's always a point where a player becomes, quote unquote, too good for the Dutch league.
Yeah.
And that's when...
Gakpo, for instance.
Yeah, so Gakpo is a really good example. There were games this season where Gakpo was just doing stuff you're not supposed to do on a football field. Because he was just like, maybe I can do like a drilled 50-yard switch that just fizzes across the pitch. And you're like, no, mate, you'll never be able to do that. But because you're just like bigger, stronger, faster than everyone else here, you might be able to get away with it. And now Gakpo's in the Premier League and he sort of got one-on-one with a fullback and he's going, I'm running down, I'm going to turn inside and then do like an in-swing cross. And I was like, yeah, I'm quick, I'm just as quick as you, mate.
Yeah.
So Gakpo's having that thing of, right, in the Eredivisie, the defenders knew what I was going to do, but it didn't matter because I was quicker than them. Whereas now in the Premier League, there's just people who can do that all the time. And I think Antony's having a very similar experience.
Sort of oh shit moment.
Yeah,
if you want
right?
Similar thing to it.
It happens to anyone when you go up to leagues too quickly. You have you're bigger than me. You're quicker than me. So the next test is basically, are you intelligent in your mind to do that? Now the big, I'm not going to call it a problem, I say a point of concern with Antony is we now all know what he wants to do, which is cut inside on his left foot.
It's interesting that we paid 80 million, but obviously we didn't. The right foot wasn't included in that deal because so far we are yet to see him use the right foot.
He scored with his right foot.
He runs on it very well.
He scored with his right foot for United, so he's equalled the amount of goals he scored for Ajax.
Did you take anything from that performance against Arsenal? Because everyone was laying into him. I thought he did all right.
I didn't think he was bad against Arsenal.
I mean, was amazing, but I thought there was a lot of positives there, and I thought I could see what he's about.
So he's entered
against a very.
He's entered that thing that. There was a point, I'd say, in 2021 where Fred was weird. I'm not going to say good or bad, but just really weird. And even when you were complimenting Fred, you sounded like you were talking about an 18-year-old that's just come out of Manchester United's academy. He tries really hard and he puts in loads of effort, and it's not his fault that there's no one.
He gets babied a little bit, doesn't he?
It's not his fault that there's no one really in the area that can play to his strengths or whatever. And I think we are approaching a stage with Antony where we are now beginning to talk to him like he's an 18-year-old that's just come out of the academy, which is, transitioning to first team football's quite hard, and he's putting in really good effort, and you can really see what happens when he's not playing there. And if you just get on his back, how is he supposed to improve? These are all true. However, the reason why Ten Hag was so insistent on Antony, and again, there was a point in time where it looked as if Manchester United were going to try and get Cody Gakpo, and then went, nah, Ten Hag was going to go back and get Antony. The reason why Antony became the number one person on that list for the right side was because Antony knew Ten Hag, right? He'd played under Ten Hag for very well and replaced Hakim Ziyech in that Ajax team. And Ten Hag went, if I can get Antony in, I have a player who can solve that right-sided problem, and I don't really need to go, these are all the automatisms that you need to learn, right? Because he didn't need that, he didn't come during pre-season. It was very much whoever comes in just needs to know Ten Hag football quickly. And the best person for that was the last guy he worked with. And to his credit, Antony knows what Ten Hag wants to do. In the Eredivisie, at Eredivisie pace, where the fullbacks have the pluses and weaknesses of Eredivisie players. So this is the thing you get, where Antony is doing, he very clearly understands what Ten Hag wants. And I watch him play for Man United and I go, you very clearly sit in that classroom session with all the Man United coaches and you just know it, all the answers.
He's answering, he's got his hand up.
He's answering like boom, boom, and he's going, oh, should I be doing this? Can we doing that? Antony knows that, great. And but you also get that thing of when he receives the ball in open space, you can almost see him panic.
Yeah.
There was one bit against Arsenal where he got the ball and he had this sort of like excitable jolt, like, I got it. Yeah. Now what? And he like started running, and his feet were just a little bit too quick for the ball, so he sort of like he overplayed it, and you're going, right, you just need to take a breath, and he's in that very difficult phase where he knows he's not playing well, and he's trying to make up for it, and he's doing just a little bit too much all at once. The good thing is Ten Hag likes him, will trust him. I think he's got one of 3 ways he can improve for Man United. I think the most obvious, he's not going to get quicker than he is. So I think that's the big one, right? He's not explosive quick. Like Jadon Sancho, he's not explosive quick. So then you go, right, now you've either got to outwit them or we need to get you in the gym so you can just bully him anyway. One player's just gone, well, I'll just hit the weight room is Rashford. Now you can see
yeah.
how Rashford's just barreling through players. So for Antony, I wouldn't be surprised if Antony in May looks visibly bigger, upper body strength.
Yeah.
While everyone, while the coaches go, right, here's how you use your right foot, and here's how we start giving you the Iron Robin style dukes and feints for your shoulder. That's a very long answer. I hope that worked.
Yeah, that works very well.
Comprehensive answer. It makes a lot of sense.
Happy New Year, Jay.
Happy New Year to you as well, Joseph.
And Happy New Year from our sponsors, Manscaped.
Nice.
So, the ball is officially dropped, but that doesn't mean you need to drop the ball on your balls.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
as far as your balls are concerned.
Yes.
2023, new year, new you.
That's what,
Yeah.
as they say.
And thanks to our friends over at Manscaped, you can get 20% off and free shipping using the code DEVILS20. Manscaped are the worldwide leader in below-the-belt grooming for men.
They are. And what I love about this is it's the Performance Package 4.0.
Yeah,
So
everything
it's not
you ever
just
need,
a
all in
Manscaped.
one
Yeah.
package.
It's not just the Lawnmower 4.0 shaver, which is elite. if
Would
we're
be
being
enough
honest.
by itself.
Yeah, I'm already just giddy talking about that.
Yeah.
But you've also got the anti-chafing boxer briefs.
Oh, yes, please.
Where's the joke, kid?
Sorry, how is your anti-chafing? Sure, right?
She's all right. She's on tablets.
Is she?
You've also got the premium body wash, the 2-in-1 shampoo. I'm sorry we didn't warn Carl about this. The body deodorant. We've also
Don't use this camera, just stare at us.
the advanced skin safe technology,
Yeah.
which reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate parts.
Yeah.
Because we don't want any cuts and nicks down there, do we?
It's the last thing we want.
Yeah.
We've all had that in the past using non-Manscaped stuff.
Yeah,
Where
it's
things...
no, it's
when
just
you ever hoovered the tasseled edge of an Egyptian rug? Well, that thing gets straight into the mechanism.
constantly. Yeah,
Imagine
one of my
that
hobbies.
tasseled edge,
Yeah.
but it's my tasseled edge instead.
Yeah, and no one wants to imagine that.
No, absolutely not. So
thankfully-
don't worry about that anymore with Manscaped. Again, it's 20% off and free shipping with the code DEVILS20 at manscaped.com. The link to that is in the description. Use the code DEVILS20 at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Thanks very much to Manscaped for sponsoring the show.
Thank you.
Thank you to Carl.
Thank you to Carl for
listening to
sitting
that.
through that.
Yes.
Delight.
You mentioned Rashford.
Yes, we did.
Your mate.
Yeah, your mate. You've written a book with him.
That's cool, that, innit?
It is.
I know you've been on before, we talked about it before,
Yeah,
but it is
we'll
cool.
never get tired of talking about this,
Yeah.
Carl. I'm sorry.
No.
But also, last season, I think he won it, not last time you were on, but I think it was the time before, he was going through a bit of a rough patch, and it was a few people questioning him and saying, is he going to be the player that we all know he can
I
be?
think it was worse than that in terms of the public kind of backlash against him.
I think there was a
lot of
public
people.
backlash, not United fans necessarily
No.
backlash, and then there was a section of United fans going,
Yeah.
and let's not forget, this was during a time when United were terrible under Ralph Rangnick, so it was like, no one was really getting away with it. It was
No.
like, and he became one of the,
And there was that
the many
moment
focal points.
as well, I think, the moment where I think it was Greenwood, wasn't it, who didn't pass to him, and you saw him in the middle, and the goalkeeper spilled it, and he didn't even go for it, and he was there with
People
his
were
arms
kicking
up
off,
instead.
and,
And that was the moment where I saw a lot of people go, "Oh, he's not even trying." You can't
Yeah,
even say he's
and
trying, But
the whole-
to see that from where he was then
To
to
now.
now, which is undoubtedly the best form of his career, to me is just remarkable.
What have you made of it, Carl? Are you surprised at all? Because you're someone you've seen, like we've all watched him, but I love Marcus Rashford, always said that. But even I'm a bit like, wow,
So
this is amazing.
It's the last time I was here, I think, was just after Liverpool, the win over Liverpool.
Sorry, yes. Thank you.
And we were talking about how he was starting the season decently. And I said, there are a number of players at Man United where I don't think they're going to get better or learn new tricks. I just think they're going to get closer to their best version of themselves. And the thing I thought going into the season, Rashford was, he's going to be just as good as he was in 2021 or in 18-19 or whatever. I did not see Marcus Rashford going outside a fullback, crossing the ball on his left foot, and Connor Cody like, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm falling over. I've given an own goal. I did not see Marcus Rashford do thumping headed goals in the way he's done before. Right? These are new things to Marcus Rashford. These are things that are, you tip your hat off to the coaching staff. You tip your hat off to Benny McCarthy and others who've basically gone, right, here are brand new tricks to improve even your best version of yourself.
Just on the coaching thing, this is a bit hard. This is harsh on everyone, so I expect maybe you not to agree with this, but I think that this is the first set of coaches he's ever played under, including in the national side, that is playing the most up to date, high pressing, high intensity, high possession system and probably the team, the system that he can thrive in the most of anyone who's played under. Maybe there was a point under Solskjaer where his counter-attacking natural ability was just kind of clicked. But this, I feel like he's probably learning more now than he ever did. Because Van Gaal was, by the time Rashford came through, we still had some good. It was Van Gaal who came under.
Yeah.
We still had some good moments, but it was largely a man on his way out playing boring football who didn't really do. We finished 5th or 6th in the league that season. And then under Jose, it was fun and good, but Jose isn't necessarily known for his modern style of football. The same with Solskjaer. I feel like this is probably the first time he's played under a modern, used to winning recently type manager in his whole career, and we're seeing big jumps in his performance. Do you think that's a coincidence?
We had a chat during pre-season, when everyone got back from pre-season. I was having a chat with Laurie Whitwell of the Athletic, and even when I was talking to some of your boys, some of the early, I think it was just before Rayo Vallecano, about what it was like watching open training during pre-season, watching Ten Hag take training, and what those training drills were. And yeah, there were 2 or 3 times, especially when they were in Australia, where you got some very clever United people go, "Oh, this is what the training drill looks like," and you got the Liverpool fans and the City fans are going, "Yeah, so that's just a regular training session." But then I had this sort of moment going, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't take training. That was Carrick and McKenna. Mourinho didn't take training. That was Rui Faria. Van Gaal, in his book, said he took training at every other football club until he got to Man United and decided not to take training because he wanted to be an English manager, right? So, Erik ten Hag is the very first Manchester United manager to be in charge of training sessions, or take a more hands-on approach to training sessions rather than just step in every now and again and say, do it quicker, since David Moyes, right? In terms of the style of football Ten Hag wants to play, he wants to play settled possession. He's improved counter pressing. He's playing that sort of modern style of football that Pep Guardiola has taken to whatever degree on the Manchester City, and Jurgen Klopp has adapted in certain ways. And you call it, if you want to be, I'll keep doing this thing when I've got imaginary glasses, Cruyffian style football. Ten Hag's playing that, and that's the first time that Rashford and others are doing this. Plus, on top of that, you get the thing of those 2 seasons behind closed doors football, there's barely any time to train, right? You, between COVID risks and whatever, you could not train in the conventional manner. You were doing fitness and regulation and whatever, and you're doing your thing in your 6-person bubble, especially in that first season when everything just shut down and we all came back. But the amount of training you could have and the amount of time you can have to improve your weak spots was just not possible. And this is why ages ago we were talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before the Europa League final against Villarreal, and I said, well, one problem with Solskjaer is I just don't think he has the bandwidth to do all these things because health and safety regulations. Whereas Ten Hag, thankfully, everyone's supposedly more jabbed up and whatever, can have 20 more people and do certain things. And I think that's been interesting, seeing not just Rashford but other players as well. I've spoken to, after the Everton game, asked Ten Hag, went, look, where did Rashford's weak foot come from? And Ten Hag said it's 2 things. He said it's the endeavour of the player, but he also says it's the system around him. He goes, the big thing for Rashford is we've told him to get into the right areas, and if you can get into the right areas, we will get the ball to you. But also, when you get into those areas, you need to do things. So it's 2 things. It's not just Rashford now winning the ball 30 yards away from the opposition goal, and the fullback's coming up to him. Rashford going, I should probably nutmeg you, and then see if I can get behind, as he's done against Brighton before. But also, the team as a whole counter-pressing and winning the ball higher up the field. If you look at that Rashford's goal against Arsenal, that comes from, it looks pinball-y, but that's just good counter-pressing. So the ball is headed out by Ben White, goes all the way up to Saka, and then just Rashford and Shaw just go on with Saka, bully him off, ball goes loose. Thomas Partey tries passing the ball out, it hits Rashford on the foot. Bruno Fernandes hits a 1-2 and Rashford gets on the ball, sends Partey a dummy and whacks it. So, the 5-second clip just looks, look, Marcus Rashford's got the ball and he sold Partey for an ice cream and he put it in the bottom corner. But they don't win that ball back if it's not for the counter press of Shaw and Rashford going, he's got the loose ball, nab it. And that bit hasn't been there in Manchester United in recent seasons. Manchester United are so much better at that middle third.
It feels like we've, under Solskjaer at times, where we would have a lot of the ball and we'd have the ball high up the pitch. It didn't seem like the players knew how to break down a deep block. Whereas now it feels like we've forced these, like you said there, like these sort of mini counters where we're not on the edge of our box and sprinting towards your box. We're just winning it and quickly transitioning from your half even. Mm-hmm. And you see him with space all the time. Like the disallowed goal against Everton, for one, where you're like, well, you just had the ball. Like we've forced this little mini movement where it looks like a counter-attack. By the time we're running on goal, there's loads of space. And you think, how have we done that? You were sat deep a minute ago. But Ten Hag and like you said, the players, the counter-pressing, has made it so you can still have Marcus Rashford's natural strengths of running in behind, counter-attacking, using his pace. But you can do that against teams that are sitting back somehow. Yeah. The Tottenham game was a great example of that as well. Rashford was phenomenal in that game. He looked like he had loads of space in the box, but Tottenham was sat on the edge of their box because we know how to make space now.
Part of it is, lo and behold, you signed a proper defensive midfielder. That's what I was yelling. It's what I was yelling at. It's fine, like dry defensive midfielder.
No. I love that. For like 8 years, we don't want even that good anyway.
Forget that.
Use someone
Ahmed at The Athletic, he lives in Egypt, bless him. Hi, Ahmed, if you're watching this. He wrote a fantastic piece about how Casemiro is the perfect defensive midfielder for the way United want to play, because he makes those tackles. He's fantastic in terms of defending against the transition. He's got that great, this sounds stupid, he just really knows how to delay a midfielder. So, you're all rushing forward. He's like, right, I'm just going to stand in front of you, go on, a day to make the pass, Oh, I've intercepted it. And he just immediately just got it forward. And that's really, really helped those, smarter people than me call that movement a micro transition, where you don't have to go from your penalty area to their penalty area, because it's just Casemiro putting a boot in, spin it round, going, who's up, you can have it. Yeah. That wasn't possible before when it was McFred. And it's also helped the fact that Christian Eriksen can pass into the final third a lot better. In the 3-1 game against Arsenal, the first goal is just Eriksen makes a line-breaking pass, takes 3 Arsenal players out of the game. And I remember, Adam was going, what? I haven't seen someone do that from the midfield. I didn't know we were allowed
to do that.
And that's really, really helped. Also, the thing also about Ten Hag is Ten Hag himself is talking about how sometimes he doesn't have the time to teach them all this stuff. So it does also come from within. So we know Casemiro is an absolute Wisecout fiend. After a game, he'll get on the rewatch it himself and go, oh, okay, what bit did I watch? What bit did I not watch? And boom, 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 boom. So he does that as well. And we know certain players, Antony and Langa looks physically different to Antony Langa before the World Cup, right? He's very clearly spent that World Cup period in the gym. And I think that bit has also helped Ten Hag a lot, where Ten Hag's going, right, this is the standard. This is what I want you all to do. I'm going to help you get better in these ways. And if you want to get better by yourself, here's ways you can do it.
Yeah. Do you feel like... Sorry, go on.
No, sorry. There's loads of questions I just wanted to... Ansham Galati says, Carl, fancy United winning 2 trophies this season?
I will love it. And I think I deserve.
Yeah.
Can you see that happening? Can you see United? I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We've not won 1 yet. But
no, but do you think we can win the Premier League and the Champions League this season?
Even though we're not in it?
Yeah, if we're going to get ahead of ourselves,
how
let's
good
win
we
terms
are.
we're not even in.
I heard a rumour that if you get a certain scoreline against Nottingham Forest in the first leg, you automatically qualify for the Champions League.
Well, I said that about the Barcelona game. Yeah. Surely whoever wins that's into the next round of the Champions League.
It's called a playoff, right?
Yeah. So, and, UEFA coefficient, ever heard of it? We should be back in the Champions League.
I think considering... I mean, start of this season, I was among quite a few Manchester United fans that didn't think United would finish in the top 4. I thought, the City-Liverpool duopoly would lock up the first 2 places, and Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea would be good, and Antonio Conte wouldn't self-destruct in the way he would. So I thought United would be scrapping with Arsenal to try and get into the top 4. That hasn't happened at all. And the fact that United now are pretty good, I'd say more than a 50-50 chance of qualifying for the Champions League.
Yeah. You got to say 6 points clear of Tottenham.
Yeah,
you've got to say more than 50%.
That's really, really good. The fact that they're in a League Cup semi-final, they seem to. I mean, the FA Cup draws open up pretty well.
Is it City Arsenal as well?
Yeah. You see Arsenal as well. So it's got to this point where you should constantly talk about the process. You should constantly describe Ten Hag's United as a work in progress. Reluctant to say they're ahead of schedule, but they're good, and they're also lucky, which is what you want a football team to be eventually, right? The teams that win silverware tend to be lucky and good, not just lucky in terms of XG over performance, but lucky in that. Oh, look, you've got this team in the cup instead of Manchester City. it's opening up in a way that very few would have predicted before the start of the season, and fewer still would have predicted after the Brentford game.
It is mad because I was sort of saying similar thing to you when I was saying we could feasibly finish 6th this season. At the beginning of the season, I was saying it's not beyond the realms of possibility. You could finish 6th and think Ten Hag's not done a bad job because there's that many teams and clubs that are in it with good managers who've been backed in the transfer market. And the way it sort of panned out with like the things you mentioned there, Carl, like Spurs just being proper Spursy.
Newcastle
in the mix. Arsenal flying. Chelsea just having a shocker, and Tuchel obviously getting sacked, and then Potter, the problems they've had. So it has been a bit of a strange one. Miles says, Anchorman, is McTominay squad quality, or should we look to sell him this summer? There was links. I saw something, I think, about maybe Newcastle wanting him. I don't know how
there
solid
might be
that
interest
is.
from Newcastle United. I haven't seen Ornstein talk about it at length, and as an Athletic employee, if Ornstein doesn't say it, then it's not real, as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes I text
that's a pretty good rule of thumb if you're not an Athletic.
Sometimes I text them, what should I have for breakfast? This one. Cheers, boss.
Yeah, I'm hearing reports you should be having shreddies.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Sounds like I'm having shreddies today.
David Ornstein understands. Carl Anka had a tuna sandwich for lunch.
Carl Anka, he's planning on having.
McTominay's a weird football player. I called him, there's this old phrase called a curate's egg, where it's like this whole short story about how you can't have half a rotten egg. So there's a short story, man gets a rotten egg, and he goes, how's your egg? And he goes, half of it's good, half of it's bad. What? And the whole thing is the curate's just more polite than they should be. But McTominay truly is a curate's egg. I think above the shoulders, I often describe things as above shoulders and below shoulders. I think above the shoulders, the man is a Manchester United player. He's a Manchester United starter in terms of fitness, discipline, understanding their standards, setting the tone for everyone in the dressing room, knowing what it means to wear the badge and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There you go, Mr. McTominay. 10-year contract. It's good to have you in and around Carrington for a very long time. Below the shoulders, Scott McTominay has a lot of weaknesses that I'm not sure a Manchester United team that wants to win trophies can have in the starting lineup, right? So there's this question of what's his best position. I think he's an attacking box-to-box midfielder, but I'm not sure if he's an attacking box-to-box midfielder because he's bad at being a defensive one, and he's not a centre back, And so there's there's this talk about
his passing isn't quite good enough. Like he couldn't replace Bruno because his output isn't good enough. He can't really replace Casemiro because his positionally and his reading of the game isn't good enough. I don't know who, like you said, I don't really know what team he has to be in. The problem is, if someone's a squad player should be playing 20 games a season. A squad player doesn't play 3 games a season. A squad player plays a lot of games. And you can't just have a squad player playing against all the crap teams and none of the good teams. And eventually you're going to get exposed when a squad player plays against Arsenal or Barcelona or City or whatever.
So, Ten Hag, when Ten Hag brings up Scott McTominay, he will often use the word power, and you can go through all those press conferences. Scott McTominay gets mentioned, goes, I bring on Scott because he brought a lot of power and he brought a lot of energy. Those are the 2 words Ten Hag uses for him. And again, at the start of the season, there was that 2 or 3 week period where Casemiro was there, McTominay was starting ahead of him, and you're going,
I remember.
Why? And Ten Hag's almost like, well, Scott's been playing well. Yeah. He understands our automatisms. He understands what to do. Casemiro time will come, but there's that. And there's also the thing that Scott McTominay's 6'3", and there was a little point in time where a lot of people were making comments about how tall Man United players were, right? And this was also a time when Malacia was starting ahead of Luke Shaw. Malacia is slightly shorter. I don't know exactly how tall Luke Shaw is, but he might be 6 foot.
He's about 6 foot.
He's taller than everyone thinks.
He is.
Luke Shaw tall, but he is.
Luke Shaw is billed as 6'1". You go on the Premier League website and you go on Opta. He said he's 6'1". If you go on FIFA on the Ultimate Team, he might be 5'9". So 5'11". So we don't know how tall he is.
Have you stood near him though?
He's got the body type of someone that's 5'6".
Yeah, I haven't quite gone. I'll get my mix on. Hi, Scott. One second.
Just stand here.
There you go.
Yeah, let's have a photo.
I think he is 6 foot, Luke Shaw.
Do you reckon?
Because he's got Wayne Rooney's body. You think he's 5'9" or 5'8". He's got that like big sort of thick body to him. You assume he must be well under 6 foot.
He just might not be. Was it Mason Mount or someone? And the disparity wasn't that big. Yeah. He's quite tall.
I think he is. I think he's probably 6 foot
He's probably
or thereabouts.
6 foot bang on.
weird
So
that
there was
doesn't
that.
appear
So
to
there
be.
was a point in time
Yeah.
where McTominay was in the team ahead of Casemiro because he was up to speed on what Ten Hag wanted, and he was tall at a time when the United style 11 wasn't tall. And then you got to the game against Southampton away, where I went, yeah, that's not enough. He's not great receiving the ball from the back line. He has a lot of trouble getting out of cover shadow. So there's times where,
Yes.
Rafa Varane or Lisandro Martinez has the ball, and Scott McTominay stood in a position where you have to just walk, create a wormhole to get the ball to him.
That's a big bugbear.
Scott,
a lot against
you
Arsenal.
have to move. You
Yeah.
have to
Like,
move.
he stood in space,
Yeah.
but you stood in space behind 2 Arsenal players.
Yes.
So theoretically, you could receive the ball, but there's no way anyone could pass it to you.
So this is why he's not great as in the central midfield pivot, because he can't receive the ball like that. In terms of passing, he's got a nice pass. He's got a nice side-footed pass with his right foot, especially when there's no pressure, and a lot of his good passes there. And there was a point in time where he seemed to have that little Wayne Rooney style Hollywood sweeping pass out, that switch, which I don't love it when Rooney did it because it just allowed the back four to reset. It wasn't quick enough. So those are his weird bits. And you put that in a team, you have to hide or find a way to. If you put McTominay in a United team, the person next to them has to be better at collecting the ball from the back four. So this is why there were loads of times where Fred was doing it, and then everyone's like, "Ooh, Fred's collecting the ball from back four." Leicester did that how many times? Brighton
That
did
was
it 2 or 3
horrible.
times.
That FA Cup match.
That was.
The one as well. What was it? 4-1 against Leicester.
Yeah.
Just a week before we played Liverpool and lost 5-0.
Right.
That game was horrendous. And remember, they would have it in their defence.
forgot about
and that. 3 passes later, they'd be through on goal.
Right.
Because they were just like Fred and McTominay didn't know where to stand.
And also, that's the person inside it. And also, if you put McTominay in a team, you also need to, the person that's playing at right back and right wing need to be really good and connected to each other. So you often see, like, Wan-Bissaka's doesn't have great games when Scott McTominay's the midfielder inside him. Because Scott McTominay isn't the best turning and receiving and, like, progressing the ball. Because Wan-Bissaka will be on the right and say, I'm moving the ball up. Scott, do you want the ball? Scott's like, yeah, sure, I'm stood here.
Yeah.
This next to this guy, I can see the back of his shirt number, and Wan-Bissaka's like, I can't
pass you the ball.
Can't pass the ball. Anyway, got to keep going forward. All right, who's the person ahead of me? Oh, it's Dan James. Dan James, you want the ball? And Dan's like, yeah, I've got my back to, the centre back's right behind me, so I'm probably have to bump it back to you. I was just like, oh, cool. Got to keep running.
Wan-Bissaka doesn't have enough about...
I haven't really got a cross. Someone better be running near post. It's Martial. It's 2021 Martial, who doesn't really run behind. Oh, I've been dispossessed. Oh, I guess I'm Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's bad on the ball. Because of those problems.
Yeah.
And there was that bit during the Project Restart where it was Nemanja Matic and Paul Pogba in the pivot. And a lot of times Wan-Bissaka was going up, and Paul was like, hello, mate, just give it to me.
Yeah.
Just give it to me right now. Don't worry about going past the halfway line. I'll sort that out. And that worked. And there were times when Bruno Fernandes came in, I'd say up until about February 2021, where the moment Wan-Bissaka dropped deep and Scott McTominay was inside, Fernandes was like, Scott, get out of the way. And just drop all the way. Then it got to February. Remember that really boring 0-0 draw against Palace in like the fog?
Is this the one where Eric Bailly did his Eric Bailly thing?
Yeah, they're in
his back.
They're in the zebra kit and whatever.
That's the only thing. That's literally the only thing I can remember about that.
And it got to that game. That was one of the very first games where Bruno Fernandes stopped moving to the right hand side to help out Wan-Bissaka. I just went, I'm knackered. I've ran all these minutes. Scott, you're going to have to help out here. And that's the problem in that Scott McTominay can be a squad player because he's just got everything you want in the dressing room. But if you put him in central midfield in the 2, the person next to him and the right back and the person ahead of him need to have things to help him out in these weaknesses. I'm not sure. Eventually, if you want to be a Premier League winner, if you want to be a Champions League winner, if you get those players that can cover up Scott's weaknesses in that way, you get to the thing of, well, surely we should just get a better player than Scott.
Yeah.
And that's not Scott's fault, and that's not whoever's fault. There are 2 or 3 players in this United team who are very, very good and have played many, many minutes in this Manchester United team. But you look at them now and you go, in 2025, when Ten Hag wants to be doing XYZ, you will either be Plan B or might be moved on.
Like, do you know even how before last season, or before this season, sorry, last season, or in the summer, people talked about Eriksen coming in and saying, well, surely some people thought he would be a replacement for Bruno or an alternative to Bruno, because you couldn't have both of them in midfield, because there's no possible way you could be defensively sound with Eriksen and Bruno playing. And that's true when it's Fred or McTominay next to them. But with Casemiro, the way he keeps the ball, not just wins it back, but keeps it, like his passing range, means that you don't have to do nearly as much defending as you once did. But Fred and McTominay are decent when they're sat on the edge of their own box and they're defending. But they aren't good at stopping a team from having to defend. Like, they make you do loads of defending because their second touch is often a tackle.
They are firefighters. They are not spotters.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Whereas if you get Eriksen and Casemiro in there, you don't need 3 defenders in midfield. You only need 1 and willing runners around.
So, like, a really good example of a player who's doing really good, but you're also looking going, in 2 seasons' time, but United probably need to do better than you, is Christian Eriksen.
Yeah.
Right? Christian Eriksen has improved Manchester United. He won Player of the Month, and he has helped change that midfield, and they're so much better in the second phase. He is one of the people to collect the ball from the back 4 and progress and pass into those things, and he's made Bruno Fernandez's life way easier, and he's helped pass to the left-hand side, and he's also helped pass to the right-hand side. Bing, bang, bing, bang, boom. Christian Eriksen, after the 75th minute,
absolutely knackered.
he's knackered. He's blown. He's gassed. And that's a problem. Christian Eriksen is an Ajax-educated central midfield. Is an Ajax-educated number 10. And he's playing as a box-to-box midfielder in Manchester United at the age of 30 after a very traumatic health incident, right? And he's playing way more games than any of us thought he would. And there are definitely points in time where you're going, this guy is knackered. Put in someone else. And this is when Fred comes in, normally, to replicate that Brazilian pivot. But also, that works when United are already winning.
It's great when we're already winning.
Right?
Fred Tottenham or
Fred coming in for Christian Eriksen when it's 1-0, 2-0 up. Sweet, great. You're goal down, and Eriksen's huffing and puffing. But you need someone else. And that's the thing of, I don't know how much money, I don't know who's coming in to spend money, but you look at that Manchester United team and you go, Christian Eriksen, 2024, question mark? A new central midfielder will need to come in.
Well, that's where I think De Jong is the long-term. I don't know if he's still the target, but he was the long-term target in the summer, I think, wasn't he?
I think the plan,
we think we could go back in for him?
I'm massively Ajax pilled and massively Eredivisie pilled, but I still think the plan originally was to have De Jong next to Eriksen.
Really?
Rather than Casemiro. I have no idea if it would have worked, but I really think Ten Hag was going to go, you know what?
Okay.
Eriksen's going to be Lasse Schöne and De Jong's going to be De Jong.
I think he might have saved himself a bit there by not doing that. Because I think, do you know in those first 2 games, it was like, right, we're just doing all of the things I want to do. And De Gea went, you're going to have to change something.
I've got a question about De Gea.
If you tell me to do what you want me to do, we will lose every week. So then he went, all right, De Gea, for the next 2 months, you're just going to kick it long. I think if we'd have had De Jong and Eriksen, we'd have gone, let's do everything. Oh, fuck, we've lost eight of the first 15 games. So maybe longer term, you could move towards something like that when every other piece works, when the McTominays and the Wan-Bissakas and the De Geas have been kind of switched out.
So every summer or every 6 months, someone at FF goes, Carl, please write what sort of football players Man United should buy based on their manager and how the team works. I love these articles, by the way. And the defensive midfield one, first one I did, took ages. I listed 40. This is when Pogba was still here. I listed 14 defensive midfielders. Right, okay, so here's the really good ones you can get. Here's the young ones you could get. Here's your tacklers and here's your passes. And if Pogba stays, you want these ones. And if Pogba goes, you want these ones. And if Donny does, and you just this and this and this and this and this. I did it for Ten Hag, and I went, right, okay, so he likes these players, which means these lads are suitable. And if he gets the young, that means the person next to him needs to play like this. If he doesn't get the young, he needs players that gets them like this. Now Casemiro, so I'm like, right, so someone's going to stand next to Casemiro. So you just need to do these things. So the Casemiro's presence makes everything simpler. It makes my life as a Man United reporter just way easier because I don't have to do 3,000 word explainers now. And then Casemiro does this. Boom, 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 boom. And I think Casemiro's presence means the person who will play left central midfield in that pivot can be more of a passer, can be more of a dribbler, can be someone that doesn't necessarily have to track back 30 yards because Casemiro's like, don't worry about it, I've got this. But then you have that thing of if you're not going to be a great tackler, can you be like a proper pay and spray midfielder? So yeah, there's 2 or 3 midfielders I'm always thinking about going, you'd be fun next to Casemiro. One of them is Paul Pogba. I'm sorry.
Pog back. Are you on that bus?
I'm
Carl?
on Pogba. Yeah, I just think.
Yeah, I've seen that one doing
when
the rounds.
Casemiro turned up at Man United, I went, "That's really funny." Paul Pogba would have loved playing next to you.
Yeah, he would. 'Cause he never played against a he played with Matic.
Yeah.
And we looked great.
That for
a
that
bit.
little
Good
spell.
Matic. Amazing. Bad Matic.
Ollie
Yeah.
spell. Sorry, Digemba Pradhan says, question for Carl Anka, will United sell David De Gea?
I don't think so. If only because, I mean, who would buy him?
Yeah. What is he, 31?
Right? So David De Gea is in his 30s. He's the most expensive goalkeeper in the world in terms of wages. He's the most expensive Spanish football player in the world in terms of wages, right? And
When you say that,
he's the most expensive. He's the
He's the
most
most
highly played goalkeeper of all time, isn't he?
he's the most in terms of all the Spanish players in the world. Highest wage, David De Gea. David De Gea is Spain's 5th choice goalkeeper,
Yeah.
right? And it's that thing of if you are a football team that could be improved by having David De Gea in goal, you can't afford him,
No.
right? The teams that can afford David De Gea are not teams that play in Champions League quarterfinals, to be brutally honest with you.
The teams that would want him, do you mean?
Yeah, the teams that if you're a imaginary European football team, and you're going, oh wow, our defense is this and this and this and this and this. Because if you're a team that wants David De Gea, you are ultimately a team that you give up. You defend kind of well. You don't give up too many chances, but the chances you do give up tend to be good chances, right? So that's that weird helter-skelter bit of we've got this really nice boxing style and bing bang bing bang boom. We've got a glass chin. Oh God! And for some reason we can't cover up our glass chin. And De Gea would fix that, right? That De Gea is that thing. Stop you get your glass chin getting rocked. But then also if you're a team that's got that thing, you go, well, why don't we buy someone who can do what De Gea can do in terms of shot stopping, but can do these extra things?
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with who would buy De Gea.
The only one I can think of, and I think they might buy. I keep saying this, but I think they might be improved by Maguire as well. Under current management is Tottenham, where they've got.
I don't think. I mean,
they've got maybe not De Gea, but Maguire. I think they play sit back counter-attacking football. They have to clear the ball with their heads 10 to 15 times a game because they're just getting crossed at all the time.
And they could do some with some strong wrists. But also it's the thing of. I mean, Roy Keane said this after the Arsenal game with people about Wan-Bissaka, because we talk about Wan-Bissaka being a good defensive right back. He's got 3 or 4 flaws in how he defends. And the thing about David De Gea, right? We call David De Gea a very good shot-stopping goalkeeper. Yeah. Half the league knows if you shoot early before he gets his feet set, you can maybe whack it in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
Because
if you actually look at his stats, he's not a great shot. Like his save percentage isn't great.
His save percentage
was
really, really, really good up into a certain space. And I've said it once on this podcast, and I'll say it again. Whenever Mourinho says, oh, my greatest achievement was getting Man United to second, it wasn't you, mate. Yeah. It was De Gea. That season where United finished second under Mourinho, De Gea is one of the greatest ever seasons from a Premier League football player ever. Outfield, infield. If it wasn't De Gea, if it was just an average goalkeeper, United finished 5th.
Yeah.
He was making ridiculous, outstanding saves at a point where all your numbers and your bar charts and that bit in horror movie when the earthquake's coming going, oh, Jesus Christ, going left and right. That's how good he was. And then the season after, Dale was like, I can't do this no more. Like, I can't keep making all of these saves. David De Gea, it was a fantastic shot stopper with incredible athleticism. So like 2 or 3 small technical flaws, but amazing athleticism, amazing use of his legs, amazing packing recognition, amazing just like, put my hand up, put my leg out, bing, bang, boom. And then he got on a bit, lost a little bit of step. And then those like small flaws in his technique became bigger. And also a thing about David De Gea is this sounds really weird. He's a bit of a confidence goalkeeper, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? You've seen 2 or 3 games where De Gea's made a mistake early and you're like, oh, we're going to get bad De Gea today. Yeah. But also you've seen games where he's made 3 or 4 slows. I'm like, well, this guy ain't conceding, sweet. Yeah. Which again, if you want to make the Champions League quarterfinals, I don't think you can have a goalkeeper who's a confidence goalkeeper.
Do you think we have to move to a point then where he's our second choice keeper? Or do you think he's good enough and good enough in the right areas to be a Premier League winning goalkeeper under Ten Hag? Do you think that's possible?
No. I think he is one of the players of, you've done really well, but if Manchester United want to win a Premier League or Champions League under Ten Hag, you will not be playing 45 games, right? I think he's fundamentally got 3 or 4 technical weaknesses that you can hide And Ten Hag is very good at hiding flaws of these players. And he's hidden them very well in De Gea, right? So you can't pass long. You can't pass short. So, okay, we'll kick it long and do this and do this and do this. Lissandro Martinez is going to shoulder this burden from you. You have certain weaknesses from long shots. Okay, so Casemiro is going to do these certain things to protect you there.
Crosses.
Right? So there's been loads of games this season where De Gea looks amazing because Ten Hag just put in loads of smoke and mirrors and you just can't see it, right? Sprays fill in, decent thing, bing, bang, boom. And then Arsenal just went, oh, there he is. There's the floor. Going to hit you that way and see if you can deal with it. And he looked weak, right? There were 2 or 3 times where De Gea was receiving the ball at Emirates and you're going, uh-oh. And he just shanked the ball out of play. He did one really good chipped. So the big pass all the goalkeepers want to do nowadays is this chipped through ball to your fullback. And De Gea did it to Luke Shaw once. And Dean Henderson can do it sometimes when he's not pressured. But you need to be able to do it when the guy's just charging up on you. Like, hello, bye, boom, put it to left back. Alisson can do it. Ederson can do it. Mendy can do it. Or he used to be able to do it, but Mendy seems to have the yips.
Mendy's, yeah.
Kepa can do it. Now. All of the top 6 goalkeepers can do that under pressure.
Ramsdale can do it.
And if you can't do it, then you just lose a way of beating the press. And this is really, really important because no team is going to press you 11 versus 11. So the goalkeeper is always your extra man, right? Your goalkeeper, when you are that 20-minute period in the second half where Arsenal just coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. A better goalkeeper with his feet than De Gea gets the ball and goes, Weghorst, go long, bang, dropped it on you. And Weghorst holds it up and does that. And just gives you that extra 5 minutes.
There was a point where we looked decent in the second half. I think it was either just before or just after we'd scored the second goal. And Ramsdale had the ball and we were pressing him. And he just went straight to Martinelli's feet, 65-yard pass, like touch it straight down and they're attacking. And I just thought, I don't remember the last time I saw De Gea do that. Find a pass of that length with that accuracy.
He can't do it. And I don't think that's something you can add to your game as a goalkeeper this late on in your career.
We always say that, don't we? It's 31. It's like, is he going to change drastically as a goalkeeper?
So you get the thing of you keep playing through your strength, but also there's a limit to playing to your strengths in that way. So from what it was reported in The Athletic that the next possible contract negotiation with De Gea is going to be we'd like you to stay, but it's going to be in a restructured deal on much lower wages. Yeah. And if De Gea says yes, then De Gea will be here for possibly until the end of his footballing career. But there is a question of who's going to be Manchester United's number 1. And yeah, you can write this in pencil or whatever, but that's going to need to get sorted by I'd say that, if United want to start getting on a bit, you want that sorted before Euro 2024, right?
Yeah.
I would think this is probably, with some of the players we're buying and have bought, Eriksen, Casemiro, Varane's touching up, approaching 30 now as well. Rumours of potentially a move for Harry Kane in the summer. Obviously, there's other options, Osimhen and other people come up as well, but let's assume that the reason Harry Kane is an option is because we think we can win the big trophies in the next 2 to 3 years. We need to get this sorted, like you said, pretty soon because Casemiro's only got guaranteed another 2 years at this level. Eriksen, who knows? Kane, who knows if we got him? Even if we didn't get him, who knows who we're going to bring in? And Varane the same, especially with his injury record. Like, it needs to be someone that can, I think this summer surely would be a time when that's,
this was one of
priority.
Yeah.
Or one of the priorities after striker, maybe.
So when I was here before the Europa League final against Villarreal, I think we talked about the nice problems that Wally had to solve. And the nice problems to solve were Paul Pogba's contract situation, Jesse Lingard's contract situation, the Manchester United captaincy, David De Gea, all those players that have the +1 option, right? And these are the things that you don't necessarily need to deal with them now, but the longer you don't, the more of a mess it's going to cause. And last season, under Rangnick, you just saw all of them happen at once. And you're like, oh my God, this is a mess. Is Pogba leaving? Is Lingard leaving? Who's the captain? Bang, 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 boom, bang, boom, bang, boom. How much money? Because they just kept deferring things for ages and ages and ages to all happen at once. And this De Gea thing will need to be dealt with, right? Much in the same way of the Maguire situation. No one's really thinking about Maguire at the moment, but that will need Maguire's future needs to get sorted out sooner rather than later.
That's the difference, I think, is that there is some sale value in Maguire. I do think someone would buy him.
I think someone would come in for him.
I still think he's 30 or 40 million for someone.
He's a player that a lot of Premier League teams look at and go, he'd
Yeah,
walk into our team.
I definitely think there's a market for Maguire
Yeah.
in a way that isn't necessarily there for David De Gea. But there's also that situation of how do you enter that marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Without causing a bit of a ruckus and a fracas. And if you're Harry Maguire, I just can't imagine that meeting. If Harry, do you mind coming in for a minute? So we're putting you on sale.
But I do think someone
Give
like
us the armband.
a Newcastle or an
Spurs
Everton
or Villa or
Spurs
someone someone of that sort of level,
all these
maybe.
teams have got money. They spend 30, 40, 50 million
But then
pounds
also,
on
but
players.
it's also the thing if you don't just sell Maguire, you go into the whole thing of right, who is your third choice centre back?
Yeah.
Because you need, if you're selling Maguire, it's because you need a third choice centre back, right? You need someone for in those games where Rafa Varane is injured, and it looks as if Erik Ten Hag wants a left-footed player to play left centre back. So that means, okay, if let's say you sell Harry Maguire, but Victor Lindelof says he wants to stay, so that means Lindelof pushes up into that Rafa Varane bit, but that means your third choice centre back, you have to go in the market and buy a left-sided centre back. They ain't cheap.
No,
they are not cheap at all. No. So then you might have to spend Maguire-esque money again to get someone who can back up Lisandro Martinez.
Do you think that's why he's tried out Luke Shaw there? Because it's a lot cheaper to get a backup left back than it is a backup left-sided centre back, especially if you insist on the whole like Laporte at City thing of like I want a left-footed player playing left back. So let me spend 80 million on someone that said
we saw in pre-season, right? There were those 2 or 3 games where Alex Telles was playing at centre back in the second half, and first game of the season, I was like, Ten Hag, just to be sure, you're not turning Telles into a centre back, right? You just want a left footed. He's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like,
yeah, don't worry about that.
He's like,
that was a relief.
Cut to 3 months later, and Luke Shaw is playing left back in the Manchester.
Yeah, it was
left centre back.
He's like left foot is really, really important because it not just he said it's important for passing and also orientation, not just in your attacking sense, but also your defensive sense. Which I'm not left footed, but we've like there's a fantastic thing out here from Tom Warville, just like just the angle of just like if I ping on my right foot over there, goes at different curve to the left foot one there. But also when you just stood left footed, you can just spin in a different way. I'm like, okay, great. And then you put in the Googles left footed centre backs. He's Ten Hag, so you go under the age of 25, top 5 leagues. And you're like, right, okay. So the bidding starts at 60 million. Yeah. So yeah, these are situations, and I think one reason why Maguire has been so awkward this season is because he's played his entire season at left centre back, and which is weird for a right-footed player. But Maguire has this thing where he dribbles to the outside. I'm doing this weird thing where I'm using my hands and feet. And sorry if you're just listening to this podcast, but when he dribbles the outside of his right boot, he does this like weird crab walk where he puts his left shoulder in the way.
Yeah.
So when he's going down the left-hand side, if someone's trying to get the ball, they have to get past Maguire's left shoulder. And Maguire's a big lad. You call him a fridge and a slabhead for a reason. So he can just protect the ball this way. He's had 2 or 3 games when he's played on the right-hand side and he's dribbled the ball on his right outside of his right boot. He can't put his shoulder in the way anymore. And the attacker's like, free real estate. Thank you very much. Yeah. And he gets dispossessed a lot easier on the right-hand side than he does on the left because he can't use his secret trick to protect the ball. I think this is also the bit where, if Harry Maguire said, look, I don't mind being number 3 centre-back, and Tony goes, okay, you're going to play on the right-hand side, that's not really a viable attitude because there's England Harry Maguire, there's Manchester United left-sided centre-back Harry Maguire, and there's this new right-sided centre-back Harry Maguire, and they're basically 3 different quality levels of centre-back. Again, how much time is Harry Maguire? I don't know how much time Harry Maguire has in a week to just keep running around with his right foot on the right side of the defence to just work that up, because that's really, really hard for a guy to do.
Abdul Ibrahim says, Carl, based on what you said on Eriksen, I see that in a few others and the bench lacks depth and quality. Was it correct for Erik Ten Hag to clean out Deadwood, or should they have stayed to maintain depth? Clearing out Deadwood,
Are you referring to Jimmy Garner?
I think he means like I know it wasn't his choice, but the likes of Pogba.
Yeah, that's
Matic,
what I mean. I think they
Tellez.
So
Lingard.
Matic was done.
I know that he didn't decide all that.
I think that's what Abdullah's getting at there. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
All the people that left on a free last season were very much done with Manchester United. Okay. In terms of, is there a player that left in the summer that you go, oh, maybe you could have kept him? James Garner, question mark, maybe, kind of. He's not really done much at Everton.
No.
So there's that. But also, one thing I'll say to respond, this is what Ten Hag does. If you look at his trajectory at Go Ahead Eagles, at Utrecht, at Ajax, the season, like the summer after his first season, there's a lot of outgoings. There's a lot of, right, okay, you and you, I don't think you're going to be fit for purpose and understand my system. You can all move on. I'd much rather have an academy player come through the ranks, whatever. And I didn't think that would happen this time because I didn't think Ten Hag would have enough time to start looking at the academy yet. I just thought Ten Hag would be so busy with the first team, whatever. But the fact that he's already made the approach for the reserve team and said, I would like to
I love that.
have...
That is
I would like to have... Oh, so he's not picking the team and he's not giving tactical instructions, but he has given notes as to certain players he would like to play certain games.
Right.
And certain players who goes, maybe don't pick him this week because I want to take him on the coach. So it's not the same level of control as Ajax, but it's the beginning of, every now and again he's having an eyeball there. I didn't think he'd have the time to do that this season. I think the fact he's already doing that means that the Ten Hag summer of bye-bye now might happen. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get rid of 7 to 11 players, but I think if every Manchester United person listening to this right now, you go pick 2 or 3 players who Ten Hag might say, shake hands, okay, bye. You could probably name 2.
Yeah.
And I think that also might have nothing to do with their playing quality, whatever. Just okay, you're this many years old. We've got this many players in your position. Maybe you need to go play it somewhere else in the league. So yeah, in terms of, I really hate calling players Deadwood. It's just really mean, especially now when you see him face to face. But yeah,
hello, Deadwood.
Hello.
Lingard.
Yeah, the guy was called you Deadwood in an article I wrote about you this morning. Don't worry about it, though. Any chance of an interview? Rebel has upgraded from the up to the first team. Thank you for that. We are going to wrap up. Before we go, Wally of the week. Yes.
I forgot to prep you for this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've done it before.
You'll have a minute to think.
You'll have a minute to think. So, Carl, you have a minute. Joseph, Wally of the week.
Well, it's a collective Wally of the week.
I like the fact you do it collectively. You tend to do a group, which is always less mean.
Yeah, but when the way you phrase it, makes it sound like I'm the most sort of racist, xenophobe.
Yeah, it's just
I choose a group every week.
It's
to
all
just
of them.
No, the group of people I'm pinpointing this time is the people who are saying that Ten Hag is a failure, or that he's shit, or that he, was naive against Arsenal, or whatever, because we lost to a team that is on for 100 points this season when we had crucial injuries and he's had 6 months to work with them. I think, like I said on the title, on the thumbnail, back the manager, it's so clear that we are moving not just in the right direction results-wise, but in a modern, up-to-date direction that we haven't been in. Like, under Jose, actually, yeah, we're getting better, but it still feels like we're playing 2004 football. Under Solskjaer, everyone's happier, but the results are getting better, but what is going on behind the scenes tactically, I'm not so sure. This time, it is the discipline is right, the mindset is right, people seem happy, the tactics are modern, up-to-date, well understood across Europe as this is what people are playing to win trophies, and the results are getting better. What more could you ask for? It's going to take some time and some money and a bit of luck, but things are clearly moving in the right direction. So anyone who thinks that just because we lost to Arsenal and we didn't win 20 games in a row to finish the season, that he's no good, are absolute Wallies of the week.
I think you make a very good point there, and I agree with all that, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Who's yours?
Don't want to get political, but do you know what I mean?
Every single week.
It's just like yesterday when you turned on the telly and it was James Cleverley coming on the telly saying, I don't know.
Who is James Cleverley?
He's the foreign secretary, isn't he, James Cleverley? And he came on and he's like, what's that? Nadeem Zahawi's tax things, I don't know anything about that. I was out shopping. What, Boris Johnson's loan? I don't know anything about that either. I've not read about that. And I just think, they just take us for mugs. Yeah. And it's just frustrating. And I know I shouldn't care, or I should just get used to it. I should care. I shouldn't care.
I think you should.
I know I should get used to it, but that's no excuse for it.
I don't think you should get used to it either.
It's just like, every week I come on here and I say the same things because every week, it happens every week. Yeah. And to go on the telly and go, you're doing the media rounds, and I don't know about that. I've not read about that. what?
Yeah.
And he literally said at one point, well, I was away and then I came back and I had to do some shopping.
The thing you
do
want to
some
say,
shopping?
Do you want to just
what?
Well, you sacked then because
Yeah.
you aren't doing your job.
Yeah.
Your job is to know these things. How can your ignorance
then-
isn't an excuse?
That was on Sophie Ridge, and then later on I saw on Laura Kuensberg, and it's like, Boris Johnson, can he be trusted? Let's ask our panel. His sister, Rachel, what do you think? I'm like, what? And she's going, I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure he did everything right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologise, but it just infuriates me. Carl.
I mean, that's just really good and wise, and I accept that. The John Yems conclusion put a very sour taste in my mouth last week, as did the really, really good essay in Players Tribune from Gunner's daughter about FC Lyon women, about how they just decided not to pay her when she was pregnant, despite the fact they had an arrangement. That also put a really sour taste in my mouth. And they're just absolute farcical scenes from the WSL on the weekend between Liverpool and Chelsea. And you're like, that,
Was it 6 minutes or whatever?
6 minutes of incredibly unsafe football on an ice rink, and you're going, this is a shambles. So I'm going to put all those three together of just the custodians of football need to do better, and we keep having this thing every single year where some group puts out a tweet and says, "Oh, we're thoroughly committed to not being absolute terrible people and doing the bare minimum," and then months later you get email like, they didn't even do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So I would like 2023 to be a year where everyone involved in football does the bare minimum.
That would be a treat.
I don't think that's too much to ask either,
we can at
Carl.
least expect the bare minimum. That would be a treat. Thanks for that, Carl. If you don't know the ins and outs of those stories that Carl mentioned, do have a look at them because, they are pretty anger-inducing. Joe, where can people find you?
On here and on the Sloppy Joe's podcast, so check that out.
Carl, any new articles on the horizon?
Nothing new yet. I'm going to be at the first leg of the League Cup game against Nottingham Forest. So if you're travelling Wednesday, I'll be there. You can say hello. You can quiz me on my Dutch pronunciation. I've done a massive data dive on Manchester United, and I'll have a look at that as well. So at some point between now and the end of next week, we'll have like a big sort of, hey, so now we'll keep talking about how Erik ten Hag has a process. This is what it looks like.
I'm looking forward to that. Carl's
That's the plan.
Yeah. No, we'll be all over that. Carl's Twitter is in the description, so go and check him out. Big thanks as well to Manscaped for sponsoring the podcast. Go and check them out. There's another link in the description there. Thanks, Carl, for coming on. Always a pleasure. And always a pleasure as well with you, Mr. Joe Smith. Go and check him out on the Sloppy Joe if you've not done already. This has been the Paddock Podcast with our guest Carl Anka and Joe Smith and me, Jay Marty. Thanks for watching.